Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked where I climb the online series 11 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. Today I wanted to feature a fun team centered around regular Giratina. This was built by Dragonair Jordan, who actually built the last Giratina team I featured, which was a Giratina Origin Form team back during Series 10. So, huge shout outs to Dragonair Jordan for the team. Check them out, link down in the description below on Twitter. And yeah, as always, I'll do a quick breakdown of the team, so if you want to just skip to the battles, check out the timestamps linked in the description below. So you might be wondering, okay, why would you want to use regular Giratina? It has a fair amount of weaknesses, it doesn't really deal large amounts of damage, and relative to a lot of the other restricted Pokemon, yeah, your damage output is just significantly lower. One of the main reasons for it is that it is incredibly bulky and gets access to Will-O-Wisp. So you already have the surprise factor with this Giratina, just because, first of all, by using a restricted like Giratina, people just don't really know what to expect in general, but certainly not a Will-O-Wisp set. I know that if I were to play against Giratina, I would assume that it's like a weakness policy set, because that's the best way to maximize your offense from it, generally. So the idea here is that Will-O-Wisp is really good considering that so many common attackers in the format are physical attackers like Zacian and Landorus-T, for example. The idea is that you can spread Will-O-Wisp with Giratina, and you've also got Calm Mind to boost your stats. Calm Mind is really nice because it also covers for all the special attackers that you'll run into, Pokemon like Kyogre, for example, or Calyrex Shadow Rider. And yeah, Giratina is a Pokemon that can, stay on the field for a very long time, especially thanks to the leftovers. What's interesting about this Giratina is that it's actually often better as a non-Dynamax option because Gyarados, Entei, and Regieleki on this team all really like to Dynamax. But, of course, you can flex the Dynamax depending on the situation that you are in. And so, yeah, with Giratina here, the goal is to provide destruction with Will-O-Wisp, get a couple of Calm Minds off. That can be really valuable, especially if you're going up against like Venusaur, Torkoal, and Sun teams in general, and also valuable into a lot of the other special attackers that you'll run into. And then Shadow Ball and Earth Power just generally gives you really good coverage. One thing that makes the Giratina survive for a lot longer is the dual screens Light Clay Grimmsnarl, and so one lead that I like to go with a lot with this team is just going with Grimmsnarl and Giratina immediately, and just going for like a Reflect Light or Light Screen into a Calm Mind or Will-O-Wisp to really just get a lot of bulk immediately on the first turn of the game. To round out the team, you've got Assault Vest Entei, generally just a really bulky Pokemon and really offensive as well. We've used this a fair amount throughout Series 11, and I've really greatly enjoyed Entei. Lumberry Dragon Dance Gyarados with Waterfall Crunch and Bounce. The Crunch is notable, of course, giving you Max Darkness, and also just giving you type coverage against Calyrex Shadow Rider, which of course hits Giratina for super effective damage. Focus Sash Amoonguss with Sludge Bomb here, and finally the Life Orb Regieleki, which also doubles down as a really strong Dynamax option. So, like I mentioned, you'll want to ideally max Entei, Gyarados, or Eleki, but, if Giratina gets a couple of boosts and doesn't take very much damage, then it's certainly a strong max option as well. The key thing to note about Giratina is that this is not like a lot of the other restricted Pokemon that you might be used to playing with, right? It's not like a Calyrex Shadow Rider or a Zacian or a Kyogre where every time you click an attack, you just get massive amounts of damage off. That's not the point of this Giratina. It can potentially be that if you get multiple Calm Mind boosts off, but it's more meant to just stick on the field, really disrupt your opponent, draw kind of pressure away from whatever's next to the Giratina. Your opponents are often going to feel pressure to just damage Giratina because it's so bulky, and it can also slowly chip away at things, and yeah, can potentially sweep if you get a couple of Calm Mind boosts off. The Giratina is also not exactly the slowest Pokemon, so when you combine it with Scary Face from Grimmsnarl, you actually will outspeed almost everything in the format as well. If you can, so one fun combo, you can go with this like Scary Face into a Will-O-Wisp immediately, or Scary Face into a Calm Mind if you're expecting to eat up like a big max move immediately, for example. So yeah. Ultimately, really excited to just try out regular Giratina. This is not exactly the best Pokemon in Series 11, or just in VGC history, honestly, but I think this team makes really effective use of it, and I think the set here is very strong in bringing out some of its key strengths, right? So, yeah. Thanks so much, as always, for watching Road to Ranked. If you enjoyed, please show your support by leaving a like in the video. I'd really appreciate it. And I've asked this question a couple of times for the question of the day, but we're getting closer to Series 12. We are just over a week away from it starting, so I'm curious how excited you are for it. Generally, for me, I think I always like playing a brand new format, but I'm not sure I'll be saying that once we actually start Series 12. I've watched a couple of games of it, haven't played too much of it myself yet, but, I've been trying to learn the format a little bit to start making content for it, and that should be coming in the next week or so before Series 12 officially starts as well. But, yeah, I think dual restricted is just very, very, it's always a tough format to play, and maybe as a content creator, not as exciting because it means I can't use as many fun restricted Pokemon like viably, for example. But we'll have to see, so let's get started. Alright, first game of the day, and we're up against a Calyrex Shadow Rider team with Landorus, Tapu, Fini, Rotom-H, Cinderace, and Galarian Zapdos. So Giratina can be really solid with Calm Mind here. Trying to figure out what our best Dynamax option is. I have to be very careful about bringing Gyarados thanks to the Galarian Zapdos and the Rotom-H. Entei is intriguing to me. Kind of like a Grim Giratina lead. Dealing with Rotom-H is going to be kind of difficult. I guess Giratina could Calm Mind up in front of it. I think I generally like AV Entei here, and it's a decent max option. And I think we can still bring Gyarados because it can be pretty solid, especially if Light Screen and Reflect are up, against Landorus, Cinderace, and Calyrex Shadow Rider. Rotom-H we have to be a little bit careful about because obviously they can just Thunderbolt or Max Lightning us. But I think this can be a decent game for Giratina. Despite my opponent having Calyrex Shadow Rider, you know, we can potentially just slow it down with Grimmsnarl immediately. Giratina can survive an Astral Barrage, especially if Light Screen is up, and just retaliate with the Shadow Ball. If I had to guess, it's Focus Sash on the Calyrex Shadow Rider, like Citrus on the Rotom-H. I guess the question if Sash is on Calyrex, what's the item on Galarian Zapdos? Because that's also a pretty good Sash user. Life Orb on Cinderace would make sense, Assault Vest on Landorus would make sense. Those are like the most common items, and there are a bunch of Pokemon on my opponent's team that like do often want to use the same item, right? Focus Sash, as I just mentioned, Assault Vest on Landorus and Galarian Zapdos. That's something as well. And so obviously only one of those Pokemon can actually be running that single item. So either way, excited to bring the Giratina out and showcase what it can do. So they're going to go with Landorus and the Zapdos. Okay, really good for Giratina in my opinion. There's not much stopping me from a turn 1 Reflect into Will-O-Wisp. Now the question is, I think one of these Pokemon running Lumberry could, you know, be the case. The question is who, I guess the other question is who's likely to Dynamax here. Now I've got Entei and Gyarados in the back, so I definitely want to go for a Reflect here. One Galarian Zapdos makes a lot of sense to me. So I will list with Landorus to start. Best case is they Dynamax the Landorus and Landorus does not have the Lumberry. And then we just, you know, manage to shut down our opponent's Maxmon on turn 1 of the game. But they are going to max Galarian Zapdos. Okay. Scary thing about it is, even if, like, I could slow down Galarian Zapdos with a Scary Face, but then it would just activate Define, and that's obviously really bad for us. Reflect will help out a lot here, but staring down this Dynamax Galarian Zapdos is certainly scary. Okay, they're going to Airstream into Grim. If we see a Life Orb here, that actually instilled a lot of confidence in me, but that didn't look like Life Orb damage. Lung Galarian Zapdos here really makes a lot of sense to me. Oh, and it's Swords Dance, okay. Really good turn for them. Now the thing is, I could always Scary Face Landorus this next turn, so even if the Landorus is lummed, I can just burn it again. But I suppose the Landorus can just infinitely Swords Dance now, which is slightly scary. Okay, they're not Lum on Landorus. I really think it's going to be Lum on Zapdos then, but it could be AV on that, because Landorus is not AV here. Light Screen is decently important here, so I will set it up. And I will just go for Will-O-Wisp onto Zapdos, and we'll see if they have the Lum on it. All things considered, though, not a terrible turn 1. Now I get both screens up, which is pretty good. Okay, they're going to go for a Knuckle. Knuckle into Rock Slide here certainly makes some sense. If we can stall out my opponent's Dynamax, then we'll be in okay shape. The problem is what I do this next turn. This Landorus is at +3 attack, but it's burnt and Reflect is up, so we're not really taking that much damage from it. And they just go for an Earthquake. Now the thing is, I can bring in Gyarados. Oh, is that a crit? That's the downside with Giratina. It's just so vulnerable to crits and like secondary effects from really anything. But if Zapdos is not Lumberry here, it's actually really good, I think. And they're not Lum. Okay, so Giratina actually manages to burn both of my opponent's physical attackers. That's great. This next turn, though, is pretty awkward, right? Because I feel like I need to bring Gyarados in. If I bring Gyarados in, the Galarian Zapdos will be at +2 attack because they have the Knuckle boost. Reflect is up. Landorus will be at +2, and they're burnt. But if I bring out Entei, they can obviously just Earthquake me, right? And that's a pretty big problem. That crit really stings. I'm bringing Gyarados out, but it obviously doesn't feel good to activate Defiant on Galarian Zapdos. And one thing like I can do this next turn is actually Max Guard the Gyarados if they end up Airstreaming into that slot. Okay. +2 attack, burnt. +2 attack, burnt. If I were my opponent, I would Airstream into Gyarados, I think. Yeah, I almost want to just Airstream and Shadow Ball the Zapdos here. Because my Gyarados can definitely take an Airstream, right? Like, we've negated their attack boost with the burn, and we also have a Reflect Up, so I'm not really taking that much damage here. The main thing is I kind of wanted to get Entei out and give it a speed boost, but I can't afford to switch the Giratina out and let my Entei just faint, especially if the Galarian Zapdos ends up targeting the Giratina slot. Okay, so they will just go for Airstream. Yeah, okay, Gyarados doesn't take that much, that's good. And Giratina actually should be able to take an attack from either Pokemon in this position as well, which is also valuable. Because the goal is we need to get 2 speed boosts on Gyarados. Yep, they go for Rock Slide, and cool, we don't even take 50% there, so that's really good. Shadow Ball, okay. Special Defense Drop there is actually a little bit scary because it would activate Defiant again, but Airstream, does the burn finish it off? I actually think it might survive with 1 tick of HP, which would kind of be annoying, but it is what it is. Okay. You can see if we didn't get crit with Giratina right now, like it would just be so bulky. I think they'll survive. Yeah, okay. It's a little bit unfortunate, but that's okay. Dynamax ends for them now. They can Brave Bird into the Giratina slot. I think I'd rather sacrifice Giratina because I've got this Assault Vest Entei in the back, and that's really valuable against the Calyrex, which I assume they'll have. Here, I don't mind Airstreaming into Landorus. I want to give Gyarados another speed. Oh, actually, maybe it's better to just go for the KO onto it because they're at +2 speed, and I'm not exactly the fastest. Actually, do I outspeed Calyrex Shadow Rider right now? 119, no. Yeah, actually, so I will go for Airstream here onto Landorus, and Shadow Ball into it as well. If I'm my opponent, I'm just Brave Birding the Giratina slot, so I gotta sack Giratina. Oh, they've got Throat Chop. Yeah, that also works. Actually survive impressively. Giratina actually takes both of that. So we'll actually pick up a double KO, and now I've given Giratina another speed boost as well, which is awesome. So we should get the KO onto Landorus now. And now I'm at +2 speed with both Pokemon with 1 more turn of Dynamax on Gyarados. I've got Max Darkness on this, and so that's really valuable into Calyrex Shadow Rider. And at +2 speed, I'll actually outspeed everything in the back at this point. So really clutch from Giratina, and even with that crit from Earthquake earlier, and my opponent getting multiple attack boosts on their Pokemon, the Will-O-Wisp and the Bulk just provides us so much good utility here. Yeah, Leftovers importance also can't be understated here. So, nice. You get a double knockout. And this sets up us for the end game. It's Tapu Fini. Okay, it's not exactly the best Pokemon to run into because I don't have super good damage into it. But I can Snarl. Okay, given the +2 speed boost here and Light Screen still being up, I think I'm okay just going for a double up into Calyrex here. I think Calyrex protecting is their most likely play, but I think I still have to go for it, so I'm just going to Max Darkness into... I guess I could read into the Protect and double up on Tapu Fini, actually, but I don't even think Airstream Shadow Ball KOs. I just don't know the item, and I want to assume Focus Sash until I see otherwise. Okay. Yeah, I will Darkness into Shadow Ball. If I had a Lecky in this in the back right now, I feel like I'd actually have the game won. Yeah, they do Protect, but I think it's too risky to ignore the Protect. Okay. The good thing is we'll be able to KO the Giratina easily next turn, right? With any attack. Or sorry, yeah, KO the Calyrex with any attack, not the Giratina. But yeah, this is the downside of now not bringing the Regieleki as my last one. They actually offer Muddy Water. Okay, I don't even know if that would have KO'd Giratina, to be honest. So really surprised to see that over a Fairy type attack. And their Life Orb. Whoa, okay. I would think Life Orb Muddy Water KOs Giratina. But if you get that knockout, then I get a free... Okay. The instant DC. But, like, I think that's a perfect example of, like, risk versus reward, right? Like, what's the point of clicking... Oh, okay. I guess the point of clicking Muddy Water is you cover for an Entei switch in, but I don't think I'm ever switching into Entei in that position. Given that they were Life Orb Tapu Fini, I actually feel pretty confident about that endgame, even if they had connected onto the Giratina there. Because I get a free switch into the Entei now, and then I have Light Screen up, and I also have Snarl, right? So for example, the next turn I can just crunch into... Actually, I wouldn't even need to crunch into the Calyrex, because Snarl could finish it off. I would crunch it if I didn't want to miss Snarl on it, potentially. But, for example, I could, like, Dragon Dance with the Gyarados into a Snarl. Snarl should KO Calyrex. If I'm not 100% confident in that, though, then I could go for the crunch. But what I could do if the Muddy Water connected there was Dragon Dance into Snarl. Ideally, Snarl KOs Calyrex. We get a Dragon Dance up, and then we can just chip away at the Tapu Fini with, like, Waterfall into Stone Edge. Them being Life Orb is actually beneficial for us. What I was nervous about was like a Leftovers or Citrus Berry Calm Mind set. And given that they didn't really have a great way to heal up, even though they do deal super effective damage into Entei, we had Light Screen, we had Assault Vest, and I have Snarl as well. And the Entei and the Gyarados on this team are pretty bulky as well. So yeah, Giratina provided us so much disruption. Would have liked to see how the game would have played out if that Muddy Water had connected. And I don't think it was over for my opponent just because it missed. But yeah, I think that turn was like a big risk versus reward calculation, right? Where it's like by missing there, you just immediately lose the game. And so I can understand them going for Muddy Water because it does cover for me switching out into Entei, but I think in that position it's probably better to just guarantee the knockout on a Giratina because, yeah, the Muddy Water damage on Gyarados is negligible, and then, yeah, how likely am I going to switch in Entei in that position, right? So, yeah, either way, though, we get a fun win with the first game with this team, so let's keep it going. Alright, second game of the day, and it's a pretty standard Zacian team here with Grimmsnarl, Venusaur, Torkoal, Gastrodon, and Landorus-T. So I think Giratina once again is really powerful here thanks to the ability to burn things. It can match up really well against Venu, Torkoal, and Gastrodon thanks to Calm Mind. So I'm not opposed to a Giratina and Grimmsnarl lead. It's hard to feel confident bringing Amoonguss in this one given Torkoal, Venu, Lando. So I'd probably drop that. I think it's probably just Entei Gyarados again as the back two. Like, Aleki into a matchup with Landorus and Venu and Gastrodon doesn't seem great. And Amoonguss is just too slow. And I can't even Spore, you know, Venusaur. Lumberry on Landorus is certainly a possible item. The Focus Touch does give me some room to bring it, but in a best of one, I don't feel confident enough in it, right? Because, like, I think Entei is probably our best Dynamax option here, and Gyarados is really important for Intimidate. Gyarados is actually a really strong Dynamax option as well, so the goal is to probably set up early screens with the Giratina, and depending on their lead, right? Let's say they go with Venusaur Torkoal, then I can go with the Calm Mind route with Giratina. But if they go with the Zacian route, one thing we could actually do is like Scary Face Will-O-Wisp into the Zacian. I think the scary thing though is my reliance on Will-O-Wisp when using this Giratina, because like in the last game, if I had missed either Pokemon, probably would have put us in a very, very tough situation. And so, yeah. We're gonna go Gastro Zacian, okay. A lot of possible plays we can make. Reflect into Will-O-Wisp is the one that I lean towards the most right now, I think. I could also Scary Face Will-O-Wisp, but the problem is if I miss. I guess I could also switch Grimmsnarl out into Gyarados. Actually, that's not a terrible idea. The reason I want to conserve Grim here is to get boat screens up. They could have Play Rough though, I guess. How important is Light Screen is my question. Mainly helpful against Venu and Gastrodon. I guess not that important, honestly. So, yeah, I'll just go Reflect Will-O-Wisp turn 1. If we can shut down Zacian with this combo, it's really good. Okay, they don't max with either. They don't protect with either. The scary thing is a sub on Zacian here now. Okay, they just Behemoth Blade. Perfect. If I connect on this Will-O-Wisp, like, we've already shut down Zacian, and that's a really, really big deal for us. Grim Feints, but I'll take it if I can get this burn. See. Nice. Giratina hits the Will-O-Wisp. Okay, fantastic. So now I've burnt the Zacian and gotten Reflect up, meaning that we don't have to worry about that very much anymore. Okay, Gastrodon's gonna yawn. That's not really super surprising. Yawn is kind of awkward, but I think what I can do now is bring out this Gyarados and Dragon Dance with it. And the thing is, even if you go for a yawn onto the Gyarados slot, well, I've got Lumberry, right? So I can just ignore it for a turn, essentially. Giratina's in an interesting spot where I actually almost want to just click Calm Mind anyway and let them put me to sleep, because I don't think switching into Entei gains me much right now. And Calm Mind here is actually not bad. I have to make an important decision this turn. It's like whether or not I'm willing to let Giratina fall asleep and potentially eat up 3 turns of sleep. It's probably smarter to just switch into Entei here. Yeah, I think I'm fine with the Entei into Dragon Dance play. Zacian is not really dealing significant damage to anything right now, so I don't have to worry about that too much, especially with the Intimidate, right? In just the first few turns, I've intimidated the Zacian, burnt it, and gotten Reflect up, so its damage output is down the drain. That's a Protect from Gastrodon, which is amazing news for us, in my opinion. It's Wild Charge? Well, that's not good. Wow. How do I run into the 1 Wild Charge? I mean, I wouldn't say the 1 Wild Charge. Zacian, like, it makes sense. It helps your Kyogre matchup, gives you good coverage. You don't see that every day. Honestly, I still feel okay. I wish it did under half there, but what can you do? Because I can just Dynamax Gyarados now. Yeah, I'll Sacred Fire into Zacian, Max, and then just Airstream into Gastrodon. What else am I worried about in the back from their end? Like, Gyarados, I think, is really strong. I guess the other thing is I could Dynamax the Entei instead, but with them having Wild Charge, I almost need a Max Gyarados as a defensive play, I think. So, I will just Sacred Fire, I will Max, and I will Airstream here. I think them protecting Zacian is a likely play, but if they do that, it's fine. Actually, switch Gastro out, okay. Into Landorus, I'm okay with that. You won't get a Intimidate onto the Entei. Like, the thing is, against this Gastrodon, Giratina has a really good endgame, right? We've seen so far just the Yawn and the Protect. So, Recover, Earth Power, Ice Beam, Scald are all possible attacks for the final 2. Best case scenario would be they actually protect Zacian here, giving me a free Airstream. But survive a Wild Charge with Gyarados. Yeah, it's hard to read into that ever. And it stings to, like, take so much damage with our max Pokemon, but the thing is, I think I can make this play because I already got this, like, speed boost on a Gyarados, and now, like, I'm positioned with Entei, and Entei is also really good into my opponent's team. So, Giratina's, like, value is, so much of it is burning these physical attackers because it's such a bulky Pokemon. So we don't miss Sacred Fire, great, so that's going to be a knockout. And the great thing about them switching in the Landorus is that is your best Dynamax option, right? And so, or at least one of your best Dynamax options. So you just took so much damage on the switch in that you can't really feasibly max that. This is, however, where I wish I had Light Screen up now, because like they could bring in Gastrodon back out and use that as a Dynamax option now. Now I've got Snarl with the Entei, so we'll probably want to use that to reduce the damage output from the Gastrodon. Like, I'm pretty okay going for Snarl here and a Max Airstream into Landorus. Yeah. I would think you maybe protect Landorus, Max Gastro, but the thing is, I don't even know if a Max Gastro, Max Gastro attack could KO us, and maxing Gastro in this position is really awkward, right? Because you're the Yawn set, which typically means that you're bulkier and you don't really have as much offense. Like, Recover, Yawn, Protect might be 3 of its attacks and it's only running, like, Earth Power, for example. And so, this was an interesting one, right? Because, like, I almost felt forced to Dynamax Gyarados because I don't have Protect on the Gyarados, right? And I also already had committed with the Dragon Dance. And if I switch out there, like, what more can I really do? It's not like bringing Giratina really provides me too much value. Although I suppose then it would set me up for like a Dynamax Entei angle, but I don't know about that. Yeah, so there's Max Gastrodon. Okay, not surprising. Now the reason I'm not too worried about this is because I think Giratina does really well into Gastrodon in the late game, and if we hit this Snarl, we also just, you know, drastically reduce its damage output immediately. So Max Gyarados gets another Airstream off. Beautiful. We get the knockout onto Landorus. That is one of the bigger threats to Entei out of the way now. And I think they would have been better off, honestly, like protecting or like bringing in their final Pokemon, because I think the Gastrodon Landorus duo with Dynamax Landorus could have been really scary for us to deal with. But fortunately enough, we don't no longer have to actually face that. Okay, they do have Max Hailstorm, so they will be able to eliminate Gyarados here most likely. That doesn't even knock us out, yeah. So you can see it, right? Like, this is what makes it so awkward for Gastrodon, because they don't have what I assume is much special attack investment. Now, granted, the Gyarados on this team is decently bulky as well. We went from 23 to 11 there, so I can't take another turn of Hail. So now I know 3 of Gastrodon's attacks as well, right? It's Ice Beam, Yawn, Protect. So your final one should be one of Earth Power, Scald, or Recover. And Grimmsnarl is their final Pokemon. Okay, amazing. The reason why I think that's really good for us is because that doesn't really provide them with very much damage right now. So with Gyarados, I'm free to just max Airstream into Grimmsnarl, and I'm honestly okay to double up into it because I think Giratina will win me the endgame against Gastrodon. So now my question is if you have Fake Out or Sucker Punch on Grim for priority. And Gastro Max Guard's beautiful. And Reflect, okay. Yeah, the reason I'm not targeting Gastrodon there, one is because, right, Gastrodon we know already has Protect, and Grimmsnarl is a Pokemon that almost never carries Protect, and so doubling up into it is really safe for guaranteed damage. And if you think about the end game, like, yeah, Gastrodon has Ice Beam, but Giratina has Calm Mind, right? And so we can just stall things out with Calm Mind and Leftovers. And now I'll actually just be able to knock out the Grimmsnarl with an Extreme Speed this next turn. So Gyarados faints, but given that we started the Dynamax with less than 50%, I'll gladly take it. And I think the main thing here was, yeah, my opponent having this like a late game Grimmsnarl. Like, the screens at this point really don't do enough for my opponent, right? The other cool thing is they set up Reflect, but they did not set up Light Screen. And so Extreme Speed will have a higher priority than their Light Screen should they go for it this next turn. So we can always safely knock out Grim with E-Speed. I guess unless it's bulky enough that with Reflect it actually takes the Extreme Speed, but I'd kind of be surprised about that. So, yep, we can finish off Grimmsnarl with that and just go for a Calm Mind here. I think the only way we lose this game now is a Max Hailstorm critical hit onto Giratina this turn. And actually, even with the crit, I don't think it KOs Giratina, to be honest. Just because, yeah, Gastrodon's not exactly a very offensive set, given that it's lefties, Yawn, Protect. So, if you look at my opponent's team, right, I think the clear max options are always Landorus and Venusaur. And so what gave us a really huge advantage in this game was my opponent, like, vying for that Intimidate onto the Gyarados, right? And the Intimidate, like, didn't really, like, yes, it neutralized my Dragon Dance boost, but I got so much free damage on what I think was by far their best Dynamax option in this game. So, like, one route they could have gone for instead if they wanted to conserve Gastro was switch Gastro out into Grimmsnarl. I guess then it's still awkward, but at least, like, you can get a screens up with Grimmsnarl and then play towards, like, a late game Dynamax after stalling out my max. And, okay, so they don't have Recover, it's Max Quake. Cool. And with the Assault Vest and the Snarl, they don't even deal half. So, beautiful. So it's Earth Power, Ice Beam, Yawn, and Protect. So no Recover, no Scald. That makes sense. But with Gastrodon, it's like, you know, there's like 6 to 7 really good moves that it can get. You normally want to assume like it has Yawn, Recover, Protect, and all of the offensive moves until you can confirm all of it, basically. But when I see Gastrodon, yeah, I'm normally assuming Yawn and Recover. It's hard to fit like Yawn, Recover, Protect, and all of the offensive attacks, obviously. But I think Gastrodon's main value and its best purpose is for Yawn primarily, as well as Storm Drain, obviously. I don't really want to risk missing any attacks, so I'm just going to Extreme Speed and Shadow Ball here. Gastro can never really win this endgame, in my opinion. I guess I could go for a Snarl instead. Yeah, maybe that's not terrible, just reduce its damage output even more. Like, they'll probably go for a Yawn here into a Protect, right? It's a nice special defense drop. Okay, should Yawn into Giratina. Yeah. But that's fine. This next turn is interesting because I can just Calm Mind, right? Like, if you're in my opponent's shoes, do you go for the Protect? Honestly, I think you need to make some big plays right now, so I would actually just attack if I were in their position. So the question is, do I really need another Calm Mind with Giratina? Given that Gastrodon doesn't have Recover, I don't really think so. So, I'm down to Snarl now. And Shadow Ball. We can just end the game here if they don't Protect, and if they do, so be it. Game goes on for a little bit longer. The reason why I was thinking they wouldn't want to protect there is because it was a really free opportunity for me to get a Calm Mind up, but I don't really think I need a Calm Mind at this point anyway. Like, I'm only losing to a critical hit, and like I said, I don't even think an Ice Beam crit from Gastro KOs Giratina right now, because Giratina is just one of the bulkiest Pokemon. So, with Snarl, I should be able to take another Earth Power, and yeah, it's basically taking Time Bomb for Gastrodon. That special defense boost, or drop made things even easier, but I don't really think we needed it. Okay, Reflect wears off, that's fine. Not really relevant at this point in the game. Calm Minding that last turn was always like the safer play, I guess, but I, just wanted to potentially punish my opponent, like going for a game-winning play immediately there. But I think even if Giratina takes 3 turns to sleep here, we still have this pretty comfortably. Because Earth Power here is not going to KO us this turn. 89 down to 45. So it did 44, meaning another one might not even KO us outright right now, but with another Snarl, it certainly won't. Since I don't think Shadow Ball will KO, I'll always just Calm Mind here because it covers for Gastrodon going for a Protect. Okay. So not really dealing much damage, but that's fine. Turn 2 of Sleep with Giratina, it's also fine. And Earth Power. I always felt confident about this endgame because I just didn't think like Gastro could very reliably deal with the Giratina. And you have Ice Beam, but you're basically really depending on getting so many turns of sleep infinitely with Yawn. And with the Calm Mind special defense, and then being at minus, what is it, 2 now? 3? It's at minus 3, wow. I might as well go for a Sacred Fire Burn, honestly. I don't think I need another special defense drop at this point in the game. Or special attack drop. Just because we get the burn, then your leftovers recovery is completely neutralized. Cool, and we get it, nice. Don't think we needed it here at all, and I get the wake up as well, nice. Shadow Ball should just KO next turn, I think, with us being at +2 special attack and them being at -1 special defense. And Earth Power finally finishes us off, but yeah. The only way I think... If Gastrodon had Recover in this game, would be a little bit more interesting, but if you have Recover, that means you're giving up, given that you already had Yawn and Protect and Earth Power, right? You're giving up the Ice Beam, meaning then you really can't hit Giratina for much damage. Okay, now Shadow Ball should finish things off. The cool thing was that Giratina was really good against the Venusaur and Torkoal combo as well, right? And just having Giratina in Team Preview probably scared my opponent from bringing that duo immediately. But even if they had brought it, I totally don't mind. So what made this really good for us is that my opponent has to get a crit just to really end things on top. Yeah, I think like even if we don't get the crit there, Shadow Ball's KOing, given that we're at +2 special attack and they're at -1 special defense. So yeah. But I think the main thing for us in this one is that my opponent just didn't have a strong Dynamax option. Early game went well for us. We really neutralized Zacian, which was good. Yeah, let's check their team. Focus Ash Torkoal, that's interesting. You don't see that very frequently. Life Orb Venu, it makes sense. Doesn't have Sleep Powder, like Grimmsnarl. The Wild Charge, yeah, was what I was not expecting. But thanks to Reflect and the Burn, it didn't really, mess us up too much. And it was modest Gastro, okay? So, was able to do some damage. And then Landorus-T. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and like I was saying, I think my opponent just not having a strong Dynamax option and then sacrificing Landorus made the game significantly easier for us. So yeah, you can see how valuable Giratina can be with its bulk and its ability to spread Will-O-Wisps as well as a late game combine like end game Pokemon. So glad to feature it a little bit more, and let's look for one final game. All right, our last one of the day here, and it is Zacian Dragapult Blastoise. Okay. Dragapult's the main problem here, I think, because it can obviously do a lot of damage to Giratina. I don't think we have a great Dragapult matchup here. I'd like to actually get a Spore off with Amoonguss if possible, but that's obviously easier said than done. Man, the problem with Grimmsnarl is we're also running Scary Face here, right? So I can't really drop Dragapult's speed. Okay. So, Giratina. I'm trying to figure out how I deal with the Dragapult plus anything. Like Instant Dragapult, for example, is quite scary. Instant Dragapult. I think I'm going to play super defensive early with Grim, Amoonguss, Giratina in the back. What's my max option in this game? Could be a Lecky. The reason why I'm going with this is because I think I have a really bad Dragapult matchup here. I don't have much to hit it for super effective damage outside of Shadow Ball from Giratina. The problem isn't just Dragapult, by the way. It's like Dragapult plus Blastoise as a lead, Dragapult plus Incin as a lead, right? Like fake out into a Dragon Dance or into just like that max Phantasm. And so Amoonguss at least gives me a potential answer just with the Spore. But they go with Blastoise and Zacian. Okay. This could be fake out Behemoth Blade onto either. Could be Hailstorm onto the Amoonguss. Not the worst lead to run into, I suppose. Normally with these Blastoises, like your Wakandberry would fake out Yawn, Hydro Cannon, Blizzard. I could see them just maxing and then going for a Hailstorm plus Behemoth Blade into Amoonguss. Although that would give me a free switch into Girileki, which wouldn't be terrible. Would I rather Reflect or Light Screen right now, given the field? Guess Reflect. I think if I were my opponent, I would double up into Amoonguss here, but if they somehow let me put them to sleep... Oh, wow, they will let me put something to sleep. Okay. Sub on Zacian would be great to see here, but they're just going to Blade. Okay. That's not bad, honestly, all things considered. Although, I did miss a Spore onto the Zacian, but the thing is, Zacian could sub there, and that would be really bad. And I'd rather just, like, yeah, guarantee something like the Blastoise to sleep. Okay, so now we're in a really interesting state. I'd rather just bring out a Girileki, Dynamax, and Max Lightning, I think. Problem is, as soon as I Max Lightning, I can't Spore anymore. Could bring out Giratina. It depends on what they have in the back. If I had to guess, they do have the Dragapults, right? The other thing is I just don't know how bulky their Zacian is, so I don't even know if a Max Lightning one-shots it, which is part of the problem. Calm Mind here. Just Spore a Zacian. I missed an opportunity to Spore the Blastoise and the switch out, but that's instant coming in, which honestly isn't that bad to deal with right now. I think Zacian sub or Protect here makes sense, but if they somehow actually let me put them to sleep, we actually have a decent shot. Okay, they Protect. That's fine. I wonder if they were Goggles on Incin, because if not, then if I had gotten a Spore off into Incin, there would be in really incredible shape. But this isn't terrible. The only thing is I actually almost want to max the, I almost want to max the Giratina right now. I mean, they could just fake out Amoonguss, Behemoth Blade, Giratina, right? Yeah, that's probably their play. So, I don't want to max it because I want to potentially conserve it because I'm going to take the same amount of damage from Blade anyway. Unless +1 Max Play KOs them. I'm just not confident in it KOing. Okay. I'm gonna Earth Power and a switch out into Girileki. The idea is that Earth Power then puts you in KO range from a Thunderbolt from Girileki the next turn. It's interesting because I was so scared of Dragapult and they haven't even brought it out so far. Oh, they didn't fake out. That's a really nice play. I wonder if this is just going into the Amoonguss slot. Yeah, oof. Okay, I survived, but that's really bad news for us in my opinion. Nicely played. Max Quake would have KO'd there though, looks like. Oof. Okay. I should have thought about that possibility a little bit more. And if I had maxed there and actually gotten the KO into Zacian, that trade isn't terrible, because then I can just bring in the Amoonguss safely, but the problem is now we're in a really weird spot. This next turn's very interesting, though. If I'm my opponent, what would I do? I'd actually probably protect the Zacian and try to Flare Blitz Among Us. I'm already pretty behind in this game, so I'm just going to max, go for the Quake, and then protect here. Like, I'm not going to win this game by trying to play safe, so might as well take some risks. That was a really good play by them last turn, though, and I just wasn't confident in +1 Max Quake guaranteeing a knockout onto Zacian, and the plan wasn't to Max Giratina in this game, right? So, yeah, not going for Fake Out was really smart, and I think I Tunnel Vision a little bit too hard on them, like going for Fake Out there. Zacian doesn't protect either, which is bad news for us. And they just Behemoth Blade. Okay, to Giratina. Like, I can't win the game by going for a Rage Powder there. One play I could have gone for, though, which would have been pretty cool, was like a Max Guard into a Spore onto Zacian. That actually may have been enough to come back in this game. But I think now I'm just too far down, because they still have something like in Dynamax. Unless they didn't bring in Dragapult as their final Pokemon. Yeah, the only way to win is if Dragapult wasn't their last one. That was a big turn, too, because if I had actually, I didn't think Max Quake would KO Incin there either, honestly. I feel like I need to have a little bit more confidence in Giratina's damage output, because given that knockout, then I actually could have just Max Quaked into Spore on Zacian, and that actually probably wins us the game. So I thought it was actually really bad for us, like the position we were in, but it turns out it actually wasn't bad at all. Yeah, they bring out Pult. I just protected with the Mungus, right? It's like now you probably should double up onto it. But I could win if they get a little bit greedy and don't respect Focus Sash here on Among Us. The other play would be to go for a double protect with the Mungus, hoping they double up into me. Yeah, I actually had the win in front of me last turn. I played the mid game in this one pretty suboptimally. I think the right play here was probably to go for the double with the Mungus. But there's always a chance they don't respect Focus Sash here. But if you're my opponent's shoes, Phantasm into Behemoth Blade into Among Us is a pretty strong play, right? So, but the thing is, let's like the double protect play. Yeah, I do think it's the strongest here, but they could always mess up, like I mentioned. Okay, Phantasm into Among Us. That part's not surprising. The question is, did you double up into me? And so the reason is, like, yeah, if I had actually just gone for a double protect, I guess I don't know if a +1 Phantasm KOs Dragapult either, because I just don't know Giratina calc super well off the top of my head. Okay, and they do Behemoth Blade. So they played really well. I really messed up because I didn't know my calcs with Giratina at +1 specifically into Zacian or Incin super well. And +1 Max Quake was actually enough to knock out both their Zacian and their Incin in this game. So I should have just pushed the Dynamax button a little bit sooner with Giratina. Like the turn that I switched in, the Regieleki, if I Max Quake one-shot Zacian in that position, I actually think we're in really good shape because I have a full HP Among Us, which can redirect attacks away from the Dragapult. Max Quake can one-shot the Incineroar and can also potentially KO the Dragapult as well. So, yeah. Giratina was really good here. I just unfortunately didn't do it justice as a sweeper. And so, yeah, should have had a little bit more confidence in its ability to, like, actually pick up KOs. I was just really worried about everything on my opponent's end being really bulky, but props to them as well because, like, they conserved Dragapult really well, right? Like, I was worried about that in the early game, and I didn't see it until the end of the game. Yeah, and Blastoise Zacian was just such a strong lead. I don't really know how I can, like, have really good counterplay into it, and, like, the strength of Blastoise, there's the flexibility of it maxing on turn 1 as well, so I guess if I had to, like, definitively choose a lead, actually Aleki coming out immediately to pressure with Dynamax would have been pretty strong, but it's just tricky because I always assume that the Zacians on those teams are like max HP until I see otherwise, and so I never want to assume that I can just get a one-hit KO with something like Life Orb Max Lightning. So it's like, yeah, the Zacian EV spread can really, really make a big difference. But yeah, that was a really fun set of games, and I'm happy to feature regular Giratina a little bit in this format. So thanks to Dragonair Jordan, who also built the previous Giratina team that I featured a couple of months back. And so, yeah, go check them out, linked in the description below. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Don't forget to answer the question of the day, and I'll see you all next time. All right, peace.